Hello, my name is Shasta Roberts, and welcome to another week of Stronger Than Your Excuses. This week we are starting on the introduction for part one. Here we go. Part one, excuses why I stayed. Marriage is such a hard thing. You really don't know the depths of what you're about to get into when you marry someone. No one is perfect. As much as we might try, no one is. You can strive every day to be the best person you can be and still never be perfect. There's imperfection in everyone. Guess what? That's okay. A perfect life doesn't sound like a life filled with love. Love itself is imperfect. If something is perfect all the time, it doesn't sound like it could be fun or exciting. We all have those perfect friends where every front thing from the outside looks like they have the most perfect life. No matter their situation in life, it seems like they have it all. It could be they have everything they could ever want monetary wise, or it could be someone that is loved by everyone around them. When you look closer, there is always something that is imperfect. That is what makes us humans. You might never know what is imperfect, but something will be. It will be imperfect to them, and that will be all that matters. When you get married, you are committing you will live this imperfect life with another imperfect human being. I hope no one gets married thinking it will end in divorce. You get married because you feel it is the right decision. You feel like you have found the person you want to be with for the rest of your life. Your relationship is at the highest point it has gotten thus far when you get married, or at least when you made the decision to get married. It can go two different ways after you get married. You can fall even more in love as you grow a life together. You grow together and cherish many life-changing events together. I know people that say they didn't love their spouse as much when they married them as they do 10 or 15 years later. Time made their love grow stronger. Their wedding day is not the happiest moment in their life. Many moments since then have surpassed that special day and will continue to do so as their marriage grows. I wish that was the case. Sometimes it works quite opposite. The other way your marriage can go is the wedding day is the highlight of the marriage. It was the day you were the happiest and knew you were making the best decision of your life. From then on, nothing lives up to that day. You're more likely than not happier when spending time apart than together. Your wedding day makes you think, how could I have been happy enough to get married in the first place? You might not want a divorce, but you are not fully committed to them or your life together. I never thought I would be talking about divorce. It was never my intention for my marriage to come around to where it is. I had every intention of growing old with my husband. How did I get from the highlight beautiful wedding to divorce? Now I'm that person wondering, how were we ever happy enough to get married in the first place? Our relationship wasn't easy, but we have always made a great team. Right from the beginning, have both been able to bring to the table what the other cannot. We might not have good communication skills, but we can get things done together. Our dating relationship was fairly easy from the beginning, except I kept telling myself that I wasn't fully in love with him. We fell together well and a little too easy. I was never all in though while we were dating. I was always ready to jump ship because my heart was not all in. We went on a break every couple months. The breakup would last a night or two, and then we were back together. I was always the one to call it off. I had this gut feeling that I couldn't shake. You know, that gut feeling in the pit of your stomach, something is not right. When you know you made a wrong choice, or you need to make a new choice and just haven't figured out the deeper meaning, when you lose sleep over the agony of this unknown aspect in your life. Our minds want a story. It creates any possible story it can come up with to stop the agony and help you understand. The story I told myself was we were not meant for each other. Each time this gut feeling came back, I would try to jump ship by breaking up. As soon as I jumped ship, a new agony would come on, the loneliness agony. And my mind would come up with a new story. This time, it would be, we were meant to be together. For over a year, my mind kept jumping back and forth between those two stories. When I was finally able to break off the relationship for good, we moved out of our apartment and he moved back to his hometown a state away. We didn't live in the same town, let alone the same state anymore. Nor did we contact each other. Yet, 3 months later, we ended up back together. I'm not sure what happened, but I missed him. I didn't have the gut feeling getting back together this time. I was trying to cope with my feelings and make up a story. I wasn't trying to cope with my feelings and make up a story. I had a new job, a new place to live, and roommates. I wasn't lonely anymore without him. I just straight up missed him. He filled a void that was empty without him. We got back together for good that time and were engaged a couple months after. In all, we had been together for over 2 years at the time of our engagement, and by our wedding, we had been together for 3 years. It's not like we hopped right into marriage. Does it really matter, though? I don't know if there's one secret recipe to marriage. What I do know is, if you're in love, you can make anything work. In this society, we don't have to stay married. If we don't want to, though. We have more free will than we ever have in our history. You can change your life as often as you want. I cannot tell you when it all started going downhill. I'm not sure if it ever started at the top of the hill to begin with. My mind accepted our breakups while dating because the story I told myself was fate kept bringing us back together. If fate has a hand in it, then maybe we were destined to be together. I don't know when, but at some point after we were married, that gut feeling came back. That gut feeling is why we kept going on breaks when we were dating. You cannot just go on a break when you're married. It's not the same. I had to find a different way to subdue the gut feeling. I needed to minimize it so it wasn't eating away at me. We hadn't been married more than a year before I was ready to jump ship again. What can I tell myself so I feel better? How can I figure this out on my own without having to tell anyone? How do I get past this feeling so it doesn't control me? I needed a new story. We are hardwired for story, and stories run our emotions. I started with one story, one reason, but it wasn't enough. If one story didn't work, then I needed to find more reasons and tell myself more stories. The more stories and reasons I gathered, the easier it was to subdue my gut feeling for the moment. We've been married for 10 years now, and the number of stories and excuses have started to stack up. It started with just one. There was a time my strongest reason to stay was because I loved him. That reason didn't last more than a couple years. The weaker the reason became, the more excuses I piled on. It doesn't take just one excuse to make me feel better when I want to leave. I must go through a list of them to overpower my feelings. Anytime we fight, anytime I am unhappy, anytime we're supposed to be having a romantic moment and I'm not fully committed, I have to say these excuses like they are my mantras. They are so ingrained in me that when I wrote this list for you, it didn't take me long. I had them memorized in my head years ago. Most of them are years and years old. It's been a couple of years since I have added a new one to the list. These are the excuses I used to talk myself into staying in my marriage. I knew I could get out. I knew I wasn't stuck. We don't live in the 60s where you're shunned for being a divorcee. You are as likely to get divorced as you are to stay married in the 21st century. The status seems backwards because it is. You would think it should be more likely to stay married than get a divorce, but that is the world we live in. At the same time, though, isn't it finally where it should be? Marriage used to be a church matter. Now it is a state matter, and church doesn't have to be involved at all. Your religion or lack thereof does not dictate your marriage anymore. Divorce used to be illegal, and up until 50 years ago, it was heavily looked down upon, and you were still shunned from your family. That is not what divorce is today. You can choose for any reason at any time to get a divorce. Everyone knows at least a dozen people who are divorced, or even more. It's not uncommon or out of the ordinary. I didn't see it that way. I saw it there were reasons I needed to stay, reasons this marriage could and should work. But everything changed when I started to grow into a better person. The person I want to be became easier when I looked at self-development as a new hobby. I realized what I thought all along was wrong. My reasons to stay were really excuses not to leave. My mind started to see things clearer when I became clear about myself. I now see my mind has not been clear for a long time. I've been just going with the flow and not taking control of my happiness. Not figuring out why I kept having these gut feelings to leave. Where their deeper meaning is, and understand what I wasn't seeing. I'm not sure if any of these, none of these, or all of these excuses are going to resonate with you. This is my list I had been clinging to for years. I no longer want to cling to them to stay in my marriage. I want to let them be free. I want to be free. This is the last time I will even write out this list. I refuse to keep living my life hiding behind these excuses. None of them are valid or true. That is why they are an excuse. Some of them are past society expectations. Others are just because things will get hard. Life is supposed to be hard. This was not the road I had imagined for my life. But I am happier now than I have ever been in my life. I feel liberated and freed from these chains. Stop making your own excuses, whether that be marriage excuses, friend excuses, or just life excuses. If you don't want to live a certain way or do something, it is okay to say no. We live in a guilt-tripped world. People want you to be a certain way and do certain things. You are not required to live by their standards. Make your own standards and be at peace with them. It is your life. You only get one, so make sure you live it how you want. I hope when you read my excuses, you learn how to let go of your excuses. I hope you turn them into reasons. They sound like they might be the same thing, but they're not. Merriam-Webster's dictionary defines an excuse is when you try to remove blame or grant an exemption, where a reason is defined as a rational ground or motive, something that supports a conclusion or explains a fact. I was trying to remove the blame with my excuses. Somehow, each one reverts to why it is not my fault I am in this place. It is my life, and I'm the only one who can live it. This means I'm the only one who can make the choices to get me to this stage. I'm the only one who can make the choices to change it as well. I'm ready to stop justifying my actions and take ownership in my decisions. I will not let these excuses define me. I would not go back and change anything in the past. It has brought me here, and it has brought me my 3 kids. I wouldn't change any of it. I'm just not going to let my past define my future anymore. My future will be one very different from this list. So, know when you read these, they are no longer something I hold dear. They're in the past, and that is where they will now stay. All right, you guys, see you next week as we go to the next chapter, which starts on the 15 excuses of why I stayed in my marriage.